Okay, so the brand new raid in Ghost of Tsushima Legends, let's talk about it, shall we? Because if there's one word I can use to summarize the new content, that would be abused, because that's exactly how you will feel by the end of it. Abused both mentally and physically, and like 15 minutes afterwards you're going to want to jump back in to maybe beat your timer, become even better, and complete those challenges faster than ever before and collect your rewards. So this update is, again, it's going to be amazing. It's one of the best updates I've seen for any game. Sucker Punch has done an amazing job with it. Of course, not only is it absolutely free, not only it adds a heck ton of new things to go in and do, but most important, every single bit of the challenge that I've been playing through the raid is extremely engaging, also extremely difficult, but at the same time it will make you so much better at the game because of the increase in difficulty and coordination required for you to even complete those in the first place. And which kind of brings us to the very first part of this impressions video, because that's pretty much what this is, which is going to be all about that communication and the lack of, well, the matchmaking in this game. This is kind of like the elephant in the room right now. Why is the Legends mode, the raid mode, why does it lack any matchmaking? And now that I've played through all of the chapters, now I fully realize why Sucker Punch has decided to go against the grain and completely remove it from this game mode. It's because communication is not just key over here, it's the reason you will even finish it in the first place. Not only will you need a full party of teammates that have enough time on their hands to stay with you several hours and all of you to play through the content, you will also need to communicate very well with one another, so microphones and like very good sound is going to be also important, but most important is going to be that coordination. You need to plan ahead, plan one step, two steps forward, and have somebody to coordinate the entire team to move forward and get those challenges done. Without this, and even more so in the matchmaking with randoms, I simply cannot see this being possible unless you're like super lucky and get like people who really know their stuff, which is probably not going to be right now, only one day after the release of the new raid. So just to give you an idea, about 70% of our deaths and, well, team wipes don't even come from enemy encounters. In fact, most of them come from the jumping puzzles, because unlike the enemy encounters, one single misstep, one single mistake, one single person falling means that the whole team will wipe, and this means you have to start from almost the very beginning. Usually it's right from the very beginning, even if you're almost at the end of it. So one of the most common puzzles is going to be that attunement puzzle. You have like 3 teammates that will have to attune themselves to different elementals like the sun, the moon, and the earth, and they will need to use those in order to actually activate their respective platforms so that you can advance into the next area. Now the problem is that unlike the usual ones from the previous missions, once a teammate gets attuned to any elemental, he or she is no longer able to see the other elementals on the other platforms. They can basically not know what the other platforms have in terms of elementals unless they take a screenshot or know beforehand, which is why a 4th teammate is required to guide them through these puzzles, through the jumping platforms, because the one person that is not attuned is still going to retain the ability to see which requirement goes for each of these platforms. Usually in my case that's me, because I usually lead my party team, and of course this has been amazing. Actually, this has been one of the funnest times I've played with. Like, oftentimes the new raid is going to require the team to split up, like sometimes 2 players must open up a way for the other 2 players, or 3 players for one and then the other one for the rest of the teammates, and then get together at the end of it at the gate. Well, I really enjoy this because there's many sections, especially in chapter 2, where you have to kind of coordinate your teammates from afar and ping which platform goes to which player and which player has to jump on which platform, which again is really engaging in my opinion. Now in terms of the party setup, the perfect one right now would be made out of 2 Ronins, especially for the far away regen and of course the resurrection that can be done to anybody on any side of the map, and you will need that since oftentimes you will have your parties split and even like on different sides of the map, inaccessible by the other teammates. So absolutely a must with 2 Ronins. From that point on, a 3rd character could be something like a samurai, definitely a good choice since they can stay on the battlefield for a very long time due to their sustain and like the health regen and like the siphon and whatnot. And the 4th one surprisingly can be an assassin. I would say that the assassin can shine in the raid simply because there's many situations in which you will want to actually distract the enemies, maybe throw a vanish or a smoke bomb instead of killing everybody, since that might or might not be detrimental to your overall performance and that current challenge that you might have. So that is why I think right now either 2 Ronin, 2 Samurai, or 2 Ronin, 1 Samurai and 1 Assassin will be the best party setup, but of course you can also go with a Hunter instead of that Assassin. Now the next one that I want to talk about is of course going to be those blood rituals. There's a number of rituals or challenges in the new raid in most of the chapters that are quite difficult to complete. You encounter the first one really early on in the first chapter, and basically as soon as you reach this town or village right here, you will see that there's basically that gate over there on the hill with this circle or well in front of it, and if you stand on that well, it's basically going to activate the event and you're going to start it from that point on. Now the objective here is going to be really simple. All you have to do is steal some souls from some enemies and bring them back to the gate so you can charge it up and open it up to the next section. So you will want to actually hunt for these disciple enemies, the disciple of Io, that can be seen from really far away because they have that blood magic spiraling on top of them really high up. So the best party setup for this is to have one team member stay in the middle of the well to protect it from the incoming waves of enemies. Meanwhile, the 3 other party mates need to go into town and kill those disciples and steal their souls, which happens automatically once you kill them with one single blow. You will get 10 soul potency from one of these up to a maximum of 20, but it also drops off by 1 every 2 or 3 seconds. So once you got the souls, you need to hurry back at the well and put it in and let it like kind of absorb it and charge up the gate for you. And you need to do this like a couple of times for each of the characters, and eventually you're going to fill all of those crystals and the gate will open up. But again, just pay attention to the soul numbers, pay attention to the orbs over there, and try not to lose the control point in front of the gate. This also brings us to the even more difficult blood ritual, which is going to be in chapter 2. I'm sure that you already know of this. We also encountered a few difficulties with it in chapter 2 on yesterday's stream, which is basically the one that requires you to sabotage the blood ritual almost in the middle of the chapter 2. So here is the gist of it. There are 3 circles over here that you need to keep in mind. The first one is in the middle and the other 2 are going to be on the side on those elevated positions right there. The goal over here is to light up as many of the rooms around the circle in the middle to open up the gate that's going to give you access to the next region. To do that, you will need to actually kill enemies inside of that circle in the middle, with all of the 3 circles being occupied at once. We will talk about the team distribution in just a little bit. Now the problem here is twofold. On one side, anybody who stays in the middle over there on the circle in the middle is going to get corrupted, and if anybody in the team reaches 10 stacks of corruption, that means the party wipes and the event has to be restarted from the very beginning. And at the same time, once you do get higher stacks of corruptions, about 8 but usually no more than 9, so that you can avoid the party wipe, those people need to go back at the other wells on the side so that they can cleanse themselves and then jump back into the fight and keep rotating this. So this is the party setup for the rotation that works the best for us. First of all, you will want to split your party into 2 smaller teams. Let's say team A and B and team C and D. You're going to want to have 1 player from each of these teams to fight at all times in the middle of that well that corrupts you, while the other 2 mates from the teams will stay on the other sides of the other wells. So basically, you're going to want to have A from the first team and let's just say C from the second team be in the middle. Meanwhile, B and D are going to stay on the cleansing wells and protect them from the enemies. And you're going to want to have everybody sit on all of the 3 wells at the very same time, because only then will the kills in the middle one will count towards the progression, which can be seen from the small little signs kind of lighting up in the bright color red. Once both of the party members in the middle have reached a stack of 7, 8 or even up to 9, they will have to go back up at their respective wells. So for example, in this case, we would have A going back onto the left side and he would immediately switch with his partner B. Meanwhile, C would go on the right side and he would switch with the partner D, and basically they would keep rotating replicating this until enough enemies are defeated while everybody sits on the wells and all of the runes in the middle light up and open up the path ahead. It's a bit complicated at first, but what you need to keep in mind is the fact that the corruption is only there to keep you away from well, the location. You will want to actually kill enemies inside of that circle, and it's basically only this small area right here where you can kill them and it will count. But also at the same time, your other party mates need to stay on their respective wells too, so that those kills activate. Now I'm not entirely sure 100% if there's anything else hidden to this, if there's any other hidden mechanic, but this is what always works for us. We can do it on the first try and it has never failed us up until today. But if there's anything else that I missed, let me know in the comment section down below. Anyway, I'm gonna follow up with other videos, especially for the end of chapter 2, with some really awesome advanced tips and tricks that can make it super easy. Of course, that's gonna require a whole video in itself, so I'm going to like cover that in a separate one later today. But yeah, this is it with updates so far. First impressions are really amazing. I'm really loving it so far. It's a really great update, and honestly, I cannot wait to see what Sucker Punch has in store for us, maybe in future updates as well. Anyway, this is it with the first impressions of the brand new raid. Of course, I'm gonna follow suit with some more tips and tricks, especially for the end of chapter 2, which I'm sure that many of you are still struggling with, and even more so with chapter 3, which is gonna be really interesting. And on the same note, I will finish off by giving a huge shout out to Virtues, Epic Man, and Lion for being such an amazing bunch. We had a ton of fun today finishing chapter 2, and it was such a breeze. We even had enough time to laugh and like just screw around in that chapter. But this is it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.